Nope, I'm good.
Okay. Welcome, everybody, and thank you for coming to our presentation. For those of you who don't know me, I'm Dr. LoriAnn. I am the department chair for the Clinical Mental Health Counseling Program at the online campus, and then also the National Counseling Curriculum Chair for all of the Chicago School. And so I am going to let JJ and Ashley introduce themselves. So JJ, why don't you go next?
Hi, I'm JJ. I'm a master's candidate for the master's degree in the clinical mental counseling program online. I finished the end of this year, so super excited, very happy to be here presenting with Curtis and Dr. Stretch.
Okay, and then Ashley.
Hi everybody, I'm Ashley Curtis. I'm also a student here at the Chicago School. I am in my last 2 weeks of the program, so I will officially be done at the end of this month. I'm totally looking forward to it, but I will talk a little bit more as the slides go about what I'm doing and everything along those lines. So these are going to be our learning objectives throughout the presentation. So by the end of it, you guys who are here are going to be able to kind of get an idea of what professional identity is, how to define it, understand how it impacts your professional career, and then at least you'll be able to identify at least 2 opportunities that will help you grow into your own professional identity. All right. Someone else want to take this? I can take it.
No, I can take it. I'm good. All right. So what is professional identity? So I'm curious from the group, either in the chat or feel free to come off of mute. What is professional identity and why do we care about it? And y'all know I like it when you actually talk to me. Yeah, that's great.
I was going to say Ash here, not shy. So for me, my professional identity is multifaceted. So I look at my professional identity as being both a combination of who I am as a person, my passions and the clients that I advocate for, and bringing them together to create this mix of basically what we're supposed to do according to the code of ethics, you know, advocating and accepting people unconditionally and changing the community, but doing so in a way that I can use my own sort of personality to achieve that.
So Ash, I think that was a great definition because what I heard you talk about is self with a capital S, like how is self connected to your professional identity. You talked about social justice and advocacy. I also heard about taking care of yourself. So there's some wellness in there too, like, and really being genuine with yourself. And, you know, just recognizing that as a profession, we're focused in that. We're focused on wellness and you know, prevention and advocacy for our population. Anybody else think of anything else that might be connected to professional identity as a counselor? Well, Ash talked about advocating for populations that we serve. Is there anybody else or any other organization we might advocate for? Yes, exactly, Ash, the profession. So that is another big piece of professional identity, is that we want to really invest in the professionalization of counseling. As you'll hear later on, one of my other roles that I actually play is I'm the International Registry of Counselor Education Programs Manager for KCREP. And so that means that one of my jobs is to help professionalize counseling around the world. And part of that is first understanding what is counseling in each individual culture, and then also trying to bring in this common idea of what it means to be a counselor. So we're going to recognize there are cultural differences in what it means to be a counselor, but there's a common theme of wellness and prevention and advocacy that are going to run through no matter where you are. If you're a counselor, these are some of the common themes that you're going to have in the work that you're doing. So, you know, the other piece of this is that part of becoming a profession is that you're going to have some sort of credentialing. right? You're going to have some way of differentiating yourself from other professionals. So if you ever have the opportunity to hear Dr. Rush Wilson's story about the 4 mental health sisters, I totally recommend that you do that, because she has a great story where she differentiates psychology, social work, counseling, and marriage and family therapy. And so in that story, basically she's saying, okay, each one of us has our own focus that's distinct from the other, but ultimately we're all working towards the same cause, right? And the other piece that's really important to professionalization as a counselor is being part of the code of ethics, committing yourself to the code of ethics, both the mandatory and the aspirational part, because that code of ethics is the driving force on our behavior. It helps us determine, is this an ethical behavior? Is this a behavior that's, appropriate for a counselor? So we want to integrate the values that we're bringing in and the values of the profession, and we're going to put those together to become a professional counselor.
So kind of going off of what you guys have all said, talking about the different factors that kind of contribute to professional identity, and they're listed on the slide here. Just going into the credentialing, advocacy, counseling, the agreement of counseling philosophy, and then working that together within your own values, attitudes, and actions to create that larger identity of that professional identity. Okay. All right. So, Dr. Elliott, if you want to jump in whenever, but I can talk a little bit about this as well. Okay. So the 2020 vision, or the 2020, it's a vision of a future counseling. So back in 1998, a group of, I think it was like 30 different counseling organizations collaborated together to kind of create an idea of where they want to see the counseling profession go. And so they spent 3 days there and wanted to kind of discuss the common vision, counselors, and started creating themes about advancing advocacy. And included, one of those themes included was graduate students, and how graduate students should develop a clear identity as part of their professional counseling and moving forward within the profession. So within these 30 organizations, there was ACA was included in it, the American College Counseling Association was included in it, the AMHCA. So a ton of different professional organizations collaborated and came together to create these 7 common issues, these 7 it was like a consensus, 7 consensus that is the way of how the counseling profession wants to see our professionals and their identity in the upcoming 2020 year. So the goal was, by 2020. So as we kind of go through these, just kind of reflect on what these mean to you, and when you think about your own professional identity and within the profession itself, where do you stand with these? So the first one is it's crucial for counselors to share a common professional identity. So does anyone want to comment on that, or why do you think that is? Why do you think this was one of the consensus that this organization came up with?
I think for congruency, and to just make it level across all counselors, that they all, so when you go to see a counselor, you know what to expect, and that it's not different from counselor to counselor.
Very good. Anybody else?
I'm kind of with Hannah. I think it's so that there's some congruency among when you seek out counseling, but I also think that it's important for individuals to know, our basic identity means that, we are unconditionally there for them versus, kind of being all over the place.
Yeah, thank you, Ash. So kind of moving to the second one, it's a little bit, you guys kind of mentioned on that, Ash and Hannah. So there are benefits in presenting ourselves as a unified profession. So these benefits include being able to collaborate with each other. We're all under the same umbrella. We know what each person is talking about. We're all under the same ethics. ACA has its own ethics, but we all kind of share that ethical values in that aspect. So moving to the next one, it's working together to advocate and improve public perception of counselors. This will strengthen the profession as a whole. Does anybody have any comments they want? Someone in the chat said also to have a level of expectations as to what is required of a counselor. Yes, absolutely. So that's, you know, kind of where the credentialing and everything comes in as well. Any comments on the third?
I would say that 2 and 3 also are where we get our legislative advocacy, that where we're able to advocate as a profession for things to help our clients or to help us as a profession, because if we come together as a group, we have more power.
Yeah, absolutely. Anybody else? Ash said if we are united, we are able on a national level to advocate. Absolutely, yes.
Yeah, like hate laws, or they call it like hate bill. I think it's like 317 or something in Tennessee recently, where the ACA refused to hold their conference in Nashville after the passing of it. I thought was a great example of how ACA was able to come together and provide a united front of saying this may be what the law says, but ethically this is what we say as counselors.
Right, and that was a huge hit for the association. They're still in debt because of that decision. So that was not, I mean, that was a huge financial commitment for the association as well, to come together and make that stand.
All right, so as we look through the next few as well, and some of these, they're all different, but they kind of tie in together. So we'll hear some of the same things. So number 4 is having a portability system for licensure will benefit those in the profession as well as strengthen the profession. Any thoughts on that? Okay, so when we look at the next few, it talks about pretty much advocating client welfare, and then we want to focus a little bit right now on number 6. So focusing on students and prospective students, and it is essential to the ongoing health of the profession. So this is kind of where we're going to, with this presentation, where we're going to focus a little bit more. So why do you guys think that focusing on students and prospective students is essential for our ongoing health in the profession?
Because they're the next generation.
Absolutely. Anybody else?
And also it's important to know that with the next generation, we have those who came before us, who are coming before us, who are more experienced, more already established in the field, have the responsibility to mentor, have the responsibility to gatekeep, have the responsibility to make sure that we are not only abiding by the ethical codes that we have for our profession, but that we're also move profession, like in the way it's shaping out to be. And then if we have the more students you have, the more people that you have interested in counseling, then the more people that you have on a larger scale making an impact. And it's not just something that a certain group of people are doing, and that there's like a lack of stigma and misinformation goes out the window, and that people are actually up to date as far as what counseling is as a profession.
JJ, I think you just hit all of them in just one fell swoop. I think you just hit them all. I did want to make sure, I did want to make sure, Ashley, that everybody understands portability, because I don't know that everybody on the call may know what that means. Portability would be the ability for, if I'm licensed in North Carolina, that I would be able to go to West Virginia or Texas or Illinois and my license be recognized. I'd have portability. I'd be able to port my license. Right now, we don't have that. Licensure is handled on a state-by-state basis. And so when I leave the boundaries of North Carolina, I technically am no longer able to function as a licensed counselor, because I'm not licensed in the Commonwealth of Virginia or the state of West Virginia or Tennessee or Kentucky or South Carolina. So I don't have the ability to work in there. Now, we're getting closer to portability, but we still have a long way to go. You know, some states now have, like North Carolina, because I live in North Carolina, I know, they're proposing reciprocity be an option for the board. Because up to this point, the board of counseling has not even had the option of negotiating contracts with other states to to have portability between states. So they first have to pass a law that allows them to do that before they can even consider it. So there's so many layers to what's going on that I don't know that people always appreciate when they're in the process of becoming a counselor, of what all is involved in the fact that we even have the right to practice as a counselor, that, you know, all the fights that had to go on for that legislation to get passed and the types of things you're able to do as a counselor, all of that oftentimes was a big political battle to get that, you know, in process. And we're continuing to have those battles even into today.
Okay. So, does someone else want to take this one?
Sure. Yeah, I can take it. Okay. So some of the common themes that we understand to be important as it regards professional identity as a whole is networking, advocacy, and research. And we pretty much hit on this in the previous slide about the importance of all three. But independently, can anyone just, you know, throw out just things? Why would these three things be paramount when we consider the term professional identity? Can one be, you know, utilized? Can one be defined without the other? Are they mutually exclusive? How do you all frame professional identity as a counselor? I can lead it off. So basically, you can have one without the other, but it'll be extremely difficult for you to create a a more fuller experience as a counselor if you don't have one without the other. Not saying that you cannot survive, but as a counselor, we have ethical codes, we have obligations to the profession, and ultimately to the client to not do harm to the client. So as we network and as we advocate, we're not only stepping outside of ourselves, but we're doing it for the profession, our responsibility to the profession, on the profession. And so as we advocate for these populations, we are continuing to align ourselves by our codes and what our profession stands for. And then the research, that what keeps us up to date to make sure that we're not harming our clients, to make sure that we know how to engage with new and minoritized populations effectively. Because I think some people have like an outdated view of how to approach clients that we used to think we had a way of thought, but now there's a new way of thought. And some people are missing it because they're not staying abreast upon the research. So these things should be continual as you continue to grow your professional identity. No one arrives at the point of professional identity and then, oh, I have a complete professional identity. No, you're always learning. You're always trying to stay up to date, you know, because that's what you should hope to do as a counselor, and that's what should be expected.
Yeah, we continue to practice counseling. I've been doing this for over 25 years, and I'm still practicing counseling. I have not mastered counseling. I'm still practicing.
Absolutely. So Dr. Stretch is still practicing. You definitely all should be practicing.
Well, and speaking on professional identity too, I'm sure Dr. LA, you can say that your identity is changing as well. You're constantly growing on your identity and working with these things that we're talking about to even create more of an identity for yourself.
Right.
Okay, so as we consider professional identity, and some of these things will seem repetitive, but there's an emphasis on these things for a reason. We want everyone to grasp it, and we think we have an understanding of what it means, and we may know the actual definition of what it means to have a professional identity, but could we, or are we executing what we need to at this moment while we have it in the program to really shape the professional identity? And some of the people that made was find your niche and the importance of framing your interests. So as you embark on the program, and it's going to go into number 2, which is the self-guided nature of master's programs, some people have, as I've encountered in the program, they largely think that the master's program is a pathway. And then while you're in graduate school, you go, oh, the master's program is going to teach me everything I need to know about counseling, which it will not. A couple classes in the subject area will not give you competency or cultural awareness for any population. That's why things are continual. And so you have to be self-guided. You have to be the one to take the initiative to reach out, because the professors, largely they have their PhDs. So it's safe to say that they could be a extreme source of support, but you have to reach out to them because they're not going to reach out to you. I mean, unless there's like a shared interest, but for the most part, the expectation is as an emerging counselor, you're going to reach out to your fellow colleagues, to your fellow peers. You're going to seek supervision to keep you up to date and informed and aware. And that's what some people miss as they create their professional identity, is that they lack self-guidedness and taking the initiative. And I think that's why we have counselor educators, because they were there before and they know what it's like to navigate the master's field and feeling ambivalent, feeling as though, well, what is my role? Do I start taking initiative now? And then they don't have role conflict because they don't know, well, what can I do as a master's student? This is where you start to, develop the groundwork for what you will ultimately do as a counselor once you're licensed. So this is all preparation. This is all toiling the soil. This is all planting the seed. This is to get you started for the rigor that is expected once you become a fully licensed counselor. Number 3, Dr. Stretch will love that I included this, but consider self. From my own experience, I've lacked that. I lacked that self part because I'm so eager to do a lot of things that I didn't know how much it was taking the toll on my mental health, which is something that has to stay central in order for me to be present with clients that are working in the future. There's no possible way I can neglect self as I frame my professional identity, because although I, as a person, decided to enter this field, I have an obligation to this field and the population that I serve, which are, for the most part, minoritized. And so, they have faced some type of systemic or harm from other systems. So I don't want to be a person to continue to harm them when my job as a counselor is to guide them and then bring them back to their optimal well-being and mental health and well-being. And the last thing is network. It may seem intimidating trying to reach out to a professor and be like, hey, could you work on me with this project? Because the assumption is that they're so busy now. They may be, but I just think it doesn't hurt to ask. All you have to do is ask. And that's what networking is. Ask. I'm not sure what my research interest, and some people think they have to have a certain research interest in their head for them to explain to a professor. No, just reach out and say, hey, I'm not sure what my interests are right now, but I would love to collaborate with you because your research interests sound interesting. It sounds really intriguing. I want to embark on something with you. If they don't have something ready now, then of course they'll keep you in mind in the future, but that's the part of you being adamant, and which are all intangibles that you have to consider when you frame your professional identity.
And going back to, if we kind of tie in the previous slide where we were talking about research and networking and advocacy, just finding, with the number 1, finding your own niche and the importance of framing your own interest, and research is part of that as well. So, and not like researching for yourself, what do I want to do? What am I interested in? When I'm finished with my master's program, what are some credentials I can get? What are some extra trainings? What are some possible organizations that I might be able to join that will help me advocate with a group rather than just by myself? And so taking that into consideration as well. Does anybody have any thoughts or questions or anything on these? Do any of these, the 4 things here, kind of speak to anybody?
Jennifer added in the chat that networking allows you to gain new perspective as well as helping yourself and others in the process.
Yeah, that's absolutely true. And consider networking. Some people kind of condense like the totality of networking. Networking doesn't have to be this linear thing where I have to ask someone to work with me. Networking means I'm introducing myself to the world as an emerging counselor. So be accepting of, be open-minded, because a lot of the things you may think that you are interested in, that you may develop a further interest in something else. So networking means largely to keep yourself open. And as you keep yourself open, you stay fertile to the idea of like taking on other resources, introducing yourself to people, going to conferences, work just by, introducing yourself to the world as an emerging.
Mm-hmm. And JJ, I think I would put network/mentor. That I've had to seek out mentors, and there are people who have been mentors to me throughout my whole career that I just really, truly don't know if I'd be where I was today if I hadn't had those mentors. And one of them is actually one of our faculty members here, Kathy Stour, who's been a long-time mentor for me and who has guided me even because she was a department chair before I was. And so she's provided me with mentorship on what it's like, what it means to be a department chair and how to balance the life balance with being a department chair. And, you know, I'm just so thankful and grateful for, you know, the mentors like Kathy that I have that have helped me keep my sanity over the years. And who've also cared about me enough to tell me when I was messing up. That is something I think is important too, is that you don't want to just network with people who are just like you and think just like you. I think speaking to Jennifer's point, right? You need to seek out people who are different than you. You need to seek out mentors who think differently than you. You need to take on leadership experiences that are not what you think you would have. I can think of one of our alums in particular who looked and started working with a population that she really understood that she didn't understand, right? And now she works for, you know, a center that specializes on that population and has become a leading advocate in our community, in our state, for that particular population. But it's because she was willing to push herself beyond her known boundaries. So I think that mentoring and that networking and looking for opportunities to serve are really important, especially in the areas where you don't feel comfortable.
So I have a question based on Nikki put in the chat if there's any networking tips for introverts. So for our speakers, I'm just kind of curious what a mentor may look like that isn't our idea of what a mentor looks like.
So I'm largely an introvert. So like what Dr. Stretch said, I didn't want to seek another introvert, not because I found, but okay, so frame it short, Dr. Stretch was one of the first people who I reached out to, and I had no idea that she was a department chair. No idea. I mean, I should have known, but I had no idea. And I asked her for some resources that she opened, and then when I met her at residency, I'm like, I was talking to you? You were the department chair? I was like, really? Oh, and so we have a incredible opportunity as an online program to reach out and have access to our faculty more than someone who's on campus doing it on ground. And so as an introvert, if you're behind, for lack of better words, behind a computer screen, you know, there's an obligation that you have to go up to campus, wait for office hours, wait in line. And I can send a text to Dr. Stretch, who I'm sure has a lot on her plate, but she's available and she's responsive. So we have access to our faculty like any other program before, and they're largely supportive, which kind of rounds out everything. But as far as networking for an introvert, just send an email, you know, send a text, and be transparent about the fact that you are or consider yourself to be an introvert. I think there's a gift in openness. And again, that brings it back to your professional identity. If you know you're an introvert, you don't want to do that much public speaking. Make that known to your mentors, make that known to someone. And then I'm pretty sure that you won't be the first introvert in the program. So just make sure that you're open and keep that concept of transparency, because you don't want to figure out or consider introvert to be a hindrance when it can actually be one of the best things for you.
Well, and just a fun fact is that the majority of counselors are INTJs on the Myers-Briggs scale. So that's what I am. I'm an INTJ very firmly, you know. And Dr. Butler spoke yesterday in our keynote, and Dr. Butler and I have been friends for a long time. And he and I jokingly say that we create the introvert corner at ACA. We always like sit in the corner with our backs to the wall, and that's our corner. And like I even witnessed him do this at the last conference. Somebody took his seat when he got up, and he said, that's the introvert corner. And he's like, get out of my seat. That's my introvert corner. So, yeah. All right, Ashley, we probably should move on because we got to.
All right, JJ, if you want to take it away.
Oh, did you change the slide? Okay. Oh, so
I did.
We put these slides here just to show you just how it's important to start creating your professional identity early while you're in the program. And this is a list of things that I'm currently involved. It's not exhaustive by any means, but just some of the things like I am a MBCC Minority Youth Fellowship awardee. And for those who don't know, it's the National Board for Certified Counselors. It's a flagship. It's an organization that created the flagship NCC voluntary credential. And I received a fellowship of $9,000 to pursue an experiential and impact objective through the organization. In return, they funded tuition here in my program. And if somebody would have told me that I would have gotten this, and the first time I applied and Dr. Stretch was there, I did not get it. I was disappointed. I was texting Dr. Stretch and said, well, I don't think I'm good enough. I don't think I'm going to get it ever again. And so all that came about. And then Dr. Stretch encouraged me to look at my CV, to look at my statement of purpose, encouraged me to do more things clinically. And then the next go round, I applied and I got it. And I think I was one of the few, the first in the program probably to get the fellowship. And so that's an extreme honor. And that says a lot about just reaching out and being transparent and being open. Join your associations. The ACA is huge. There's so many resources, just one singular vision. You can do so much. So, but also consider self if you know that it's too much for you to acknowledge that. I think that that's very, 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 very important. And I'm learning that now. I'm a scholar at USF. I'm creating the LGBTQ inclusive course with Dr. Crowley. I'm an NCAB member for HIV and AIDS, presentations at multiple agencies and organizations on various aspects within mental health. I'm completing a training as a board certified transgender care specialist and board certified sex therapist upon graduation and licensure. I'll bring in that credential. Member of Theta Chi Sigma, the chair of the social committee there, interim chair of the bylaws committee. So,
well, and you're forgetting one, JJ, and that I just noticed that it's not on here, but JJ is also the graduate assistant for a national task force on social justice curriculum development. And so,
I forgot. And that's by Dr. Stretch. Yeah, which has been awesome. And one thing I will say is, as you continue to do things, of course, we want to encourage you to be more open and be more responsive to like things that you're interested in, but also remember to remember self. If nothing else, please include yourself. Because I made, not the mistake, but it's the learning process to where I want to overachieve. I want to do so much to where I can't be present for the things. And I have to try to frame and say no to certain things, which is another part of professional activity. It's not yes, yes, yes. Sometimes it's a little bit of yes, I can do that. Maybe not right now. Okay, sure. In a couple months or whatever, that's self-care. And that's inclusive within professional identity.
All right, so I will talk a little bit about how I've kind of grown into my professional identity as it just keeps growing. Like JJ, I have a hard time saying no too. It's a habit of mine to just say yes to everything. And so definitely considering that self and like my own values and everything in growing my professional identity, I need to say no at some point in time every now and then. So when I first started into the program, I really had no idea what I wanted to do in my master's program. Honestly, I was like, I just want to counsel people. Like that's all I want to do. And then starting to get into some of the different classes, some of the different, in talking to different professors and everything, I realized that my values and my background of military, I could really like use that in advocating moving forward for military veterans, for families, anybody in first responders. And so that's kind of where I started to go. And so I immediately joined the MGCA, which is the Military and Government Counseling Association division of ACA, and just kind of sat there as a member for a little while. And then I realized, well, hey, I could do more with that. So I ended up applying and becoming the graduate student representative for this upcoming year. So, and then when I was in my third year, I got into a class with another professor at the Chicago School, Dr. Moore, and she pretty much was like, well, why don't you go for emerging leader in ACC, which ACC is the Association for Creativity in Counseling. And I never really considered myself a creative counselor. So I was like, well, I don't know about that. But I went ahead and did it anyway. And I was able to become an emerging leader. And then I went to the first conference last year, ACC conference in Florida, which is amazing, by the way. If anybody wants to go, it's in Florida. You have to go. But I was really surprised about, I went to a bunch of different presentations on using creativity in counseling. And it really just opened my eyes. So my professional identity at that point started to turn towards, okay, well, how can I use creative counseling within the military population? And so I could start seeing the wheels turning as I was, being a part of these things. I was able to present on virtual reality therapy at the ACC conference last year, and I'm planning on presenting on it again at the Canadian Counseling and Psychotherapy Association's conference. That's next month. So after I started realizing like what I wanted to do, what I wanted to advocate for, networking became a huge thing for me, and also getting that certification, starting to look on those sides of the professional identity. And so I went and I sought out one of my mentors, who happens to be another professor at the Chicago School, and he said, well, why don't you go for your CCTP, which is a Certified Clinical Trauma Professional? And I said, sure, I'll do it. And so I did. So just starting to kind of build that behind me, so that way moving forward, I have the resources, I have the understanding, the people that I can network with to move forward within the advocacy portion that I want to work with. But I also realized, I went to ACA last month. It was amazing. But I also got to be a part of, so at ACA, I got to be a part of some different, I got to witness a really great conversation between some members of the ANCD, some founding members, and it was really eye-opening to me. And so they talked about, some of the difficulties that minorities face even within the ACA organization. And so I was like, this is amazing. What can I do with this? And so that really helped start turning some other things for me moving forward with my professional identity. And so I just wanted to kind of make that clear to you guys. It's constantly changing. I had no idea what I was going to do 3 years ago. And now I have certain certifications. I'm a part of certain organizations. I'm presenting on things that I'm really interested in presenting on. I eventually want to do research. And so that advocacy piece is coming in as well, and kind of tying everything together. All right. Go ahead, Dr. LA.
Okay. So I've been in the field a little bit longer than Ashley and JJ, a little bit. And so what I really want to focus on is like how my mentors have impacted me and how my leadership experience early on has impacted me as a professional today. So back in the day, long, long ago, I was actually the president of Nu Sigma Chi, which is the North Carolina State Chi Sigma Iota chapter. And while I was a member of the Nu Sigma Chi chapter, I had the opportunity to go to ACA in Kansas City and also volunteer at that conference. And when I volunteered at that conference, I met Sam Gladdy and Patricia Arredondo, both who are amazing leaders and mentors in our field. And since that time that I got to TA with them at the ACA conference, they've taken a very personal interest in my career, and they've tracked me and they've followed me. Sam and I have served on a licensure board together, and Patricia actually hired me for this position because she was the president at the time of the Chicago campus when I got hired. And so, because I had had previous experiences with them, they were aware of me. They knew about me. They had followed my career and were interested in me. They, when I would go to future conferences, they'd be like, hey, how are things going? Where are you at? What are you doing? What's going on? And so I take time to talk with them. I mean, I think some of the most valuable time that I spend, even as far as I'm in my career, I'm a full professor now, but I still spend time with my mentors and my elders because that's where I learn, because I can learn from them. I can spend time with them and soak up every piece of ounce of knowledge that they have and hopefully utilize it. And those relationships have helped me get to where I am. It's kind of funny because years ago, Sam asked me to pursue ACC and ACA presidency. I'm not pursuing the ACA presidency. That's a separate issue. But for ACC, the Association for Creativity and Counseling, years ago, he asked me, and I want to speak to what JJ said about learning to say no. I had just had my daughter, who is now almost 12, and I said no. I said, I can't do that right now. I'm the chair of the licensure board. I'm running a private practice. I'm working full-time as a faculty member, and I've got these other, I can't right now, Sam. I can't, but maybe, in a few years. And sure enough, almost 10 years later, that opportunity was still there. I'm now a trustee for ACC. I'm the conference co-chair. So it's not like because I said no that opportunity was gone forever. Because I knew I needed to have family life balance, when I said no, I said not now. And I think that's a good answer to have sometimes, is I can't do it right now. But it doesn't mean I'm not interested in it, and that you want to maintain those relationships and those networks. That has been a big thing. The other thing is I know what I'm good at. And I think that's that knowing of self. Like, I know that I am really good at managing data. Like, I can organize data like nobody else, right? So I'm a great person to manage a continuing ed system, right? So if you have an ACEP number and you need somebody to manage how many people came to your continuing ed and summarize the evaluations, I know that that's a skill set that I have. I can do assessment really easily. And so I would volunteer for things that other people really don't like to do. And it would give me opportunities to get into places that people were like, how did you get, to volunteer with the Association for Play Therapy? Or how did you get in with this organization? It's because I saw a need and I stepped up and said, hey, I can fill that. I'm good at that. I know how to do that. And we all are bringing forward skills and knowledge that we have that we can offer to an organization. You don't have to do something you don't like. There's plenty of work to be done in lots of different ways. And there's lots of things you can do to expand your own skill set. Because, when I look at Ashley's and JJ's, just this tiny little bit of what they've done while they've been in our graduate program, can you imagine the skills that they can talk about in an interview that they've had the opportunity to cultivate while they've been in this program? Because I know both of them through their whole program, and they've both grown. They're both very different than where they were when they started, and not good or bad, just they're different. And it's just amazing to see how leadership and how taking opportunities to be involved at a higher level than just participating in a program has really, I think, molded both of them in that process. So again, I think it's about being selective about what you do and nurturing and networking with mentors and elders. I think that you just cannot do this work, cannot really identify what it means to be a counselor unless you know where we came from and where we're headed.
All right, so as Dr. LA kind of touched on, these are some opportunities as a master's level student. Oops, sorry guys, how do I go back? Hold on, I'm sorry. I clicked things too quick. My fingers are working faster than my mind. Okay, so these are opportunities for master level students to get into. And I think one of the things when you think about professional identity, and I know for me when I was first starting in the program, I was like, I can't do any of those things. I can't be a part of ACA. I can't be on a board. I can't be on a committee. Like, I'm just a master's student. However, you can, and they ask you to. I mean, this is a huge part of the mentoring, like Dr. LA and JJ talked about. These professionals that are out in the field and, division leaders and board members want to see us as students be a part of it. They want to see us take that initiative. They want to be able to be mentors. It's a matter of taking that first step out. And it might be scary. It could be a little bit scary, and you might not get what you want. You might do a proposal and it not get accepted. I've had one that's not been accepted, and it really sucks because I wanted to go to Ireland, but whatever, that happens. So, but that's a part of the process. It's a part of becoming your own, professional identity. And I would say one of the great places to start is, I would assume that most of us are probably ACA members, but look into the different divisions. There's a ton of different divisions that you might have a certain connection with, and email somebody, look at their Facebook pages, go to their websites, look on the ACA website. And that's how I really got started with like the MGCA. When I applied for their graduate student representative, I became a member. I got an email. They were like, hey, do you want to try this? And I was like, sure. So, I mean, just taking that first step forward, there are all these opportunities. It's just a matter of like trying to look for them and recognizing them. And that's where I think leaning on our professors and leaning on our mentors and other alumni and other people that are in the program, asking them, hey, what did you do? How can I do that? What would you suggest? And working along those, especially for those who might be more introverted, asking one of your fellow peers who you might know a little bit better might be the first step for you.
I think too, some of our students that have maybe been a little bit more introverted but wanted more experience have applied in GAs, graduate assistants. And I think that's a great way to get in and meet people and make it safer to, you know, we don't always have GA positions open, but it's a, you know, we usually have 2 or 3 open in the year. So, you know, think about that as another possible way of getting in and, you know, connecting with faculty and learning kind of how the process works and taking on some leadership responsibility.
Yeah, Dr. Stretch, for me, that was an issue that I had while I was in classes. I felt like I was overwhelmed with everything that I had going on between classes and then working and kids and trying to juggle that and figuring that out. I felt like I can't do anything else. So I'm going to wait till I'm at a point where I'm comfortable, and then I'll start looking outside that box. And that's pretty much what I did.
Yeah, and this is where I'll call out Keisha, because whether she realizes it or not, she was respected and recognized as a student leader pretty early on. Yep. And so you don't always have to have a formal position to be respected and acknowledged by your peers and faculty as having leadership ability and being seen as a leader. So Keisha, I mean, we saw you as a leader, I think probably before you did. And so I think that it's about really acknowledging the skill set that all of you are bringing to this community that we call CMHC, or, you know, whatever school you're at. I mean, it's like that. I think one of the strengths of the Chicago school system is that we really focus on strengths. Like, yeah, I know you're having these issues, but what strengths do you have that can help you get past this barricade, this obstacle?
I think that going along those lines, that's where the mentoring comes in a lot too, because I'll speak for myself. I'm a mother of 3 children. My husband's in the military, and so he's not here all the time. I work full time, and I'm in my field work. I'm just finishing my field work, and I have all of these other responsibilities on top of that. And sometimes it is overwhelming. And there's times where I'm like, I wish I just had a day. Like I could just sit and eat popcorn and watch TV. And so during those times when I'm feeling discouraged, I reach out to my mentors. I reach out to some of the faculty members that we have that know my situation and people I've worked with in the past. And I'm like, hey, I'm having a rough day. Like, how do I get through this? And so just bringing that time back in, that mentoring and kind of finding yourself, finding out what works best for you, and then using that to move forward.
Well, and I want to speak kind of on that as well, Ashley, that, you know, I see Hannah mention the student residency chair. The reason that position is becoming a position is because Justina Wong approached me and said, we need a student residency chair. And I was like, sounds cool to me. Let's do it. Write it up. So
of course she did.
I mean, because I know, right? I know everybody's surprised it came from Justina. But that's a great example. But that's a great example of seeing a need, perceiving a need, and saying, hey, we need this. And, you know, it's very rare, and I think most of you who have had any interactions with me will know, I don't usually say no. I'm like, how can we do that? Or when can we do that? Or, you know, and I think that's what's important, is that we support each other and figure out how to nurture each other in those areas of interest.
All right, so we're going to move on to some questions. This is just to kind of help the discussion along. So if anyone has any input or any further questions past these, just chime in. So the first one is, why is it important? We kind of already answered that a little bit, but if anyone has any more comments or input on that. Thank you, JJ, for watching the chat. Or any of these questions, anyone, and answer them if you feel free. Or I think the one that was added on. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
No, I was going to say, I think that after some of the conversation we've had both in the chat and in the discussion, I think I'm curious, what are people's takeaways from this? Like, what are you, from our conversations and our testimony on the pieces we talked about, like, what are you taking away about professional identity and its connection to leadership?
I mean, for me, like, I kind of feel like, you know, my professional identity, growing into this program, recognizing the professional identity support that we get just from this program that I don't feel like all programs have. I see a couple of possibilities. Like, first of all, you know, my passion project that if you are not in field work yet, you will have to develop, has blossomed in my brain of opportunities to change my community. And to put roots down and to do things that before I didn't see as being possible because I was, quote, just a student. But also from a networking standpoint, to reach out to students that you know aren't in this program. So if you went to undergraduate somewhere else, I went to undergraduate at Troy University, Dothan campus in Alabama. And so for me, you know, when this conference came up, for instance, you know, knowing that it's free and knowing that, you know, we have this great book put together of everything being presented. You know, I started reaching out to people I knew there. I started reaching out to counselors that I knew and reaching out to people I knew that were working at different universities as their careers, and just being like, hey, you guys should like advertise this on campus. It's free CEs for some of your professionals that need them. And it kind of opened that opportunity up of saying, like, I may not be a recognized leader necessarily on paper, but there are leadership things I can do that really advocate, not just for, you know, me and what I'm interested in, but also advocates for this profession and the professional development of other people outside of self.
And I see that Holly said, find a mentor, spend some time in self-reflection. I just lost it. And decide what specialty area you're most interested in. You know, build relationships. Sheena said, and Jennifer's talking about being willing to step outside your comfort zone and allow for more opportunities and chance to hone your skill. And JJ's just being our cheerleader.
JJ. Something else to kind of talk about and consider too is going back to like the networking, but we have a huge, a lot of people in our faculty in our program go to like ACA or ACC or all these other conferences. If that's where you want to start, my first conference I ever went to was ACA. And that was a huge conference, but there were so many people from our program that were there that I didn't feel like I was a tiny little ant in a giant anthill. There was a group of people that I could kind of latch onto while I was there and be like, okay, where do you want to go? Ash went with me to that one. And so just to know that, like, that there are so many people that you know that are going to be there, take that step forward. Try to reach out and see if you can go to these different presentations and I made sure that I would go to certain presentations that I had no idea what it was about, because I wanted to learn. I wanted to see what it was about. And so I would say that would be a good place to start as well. And the people who do the presentations at ACA or any other conference always have their cards ready. You can walk up to them at the end and ask questions. They have their emails. And so that's a good place to start networking as well.
Yeah, and as a concluding point, just for me, and it's something Dr. Stretch said earlier about, well, myself and Curtis, for example, when we started the program at around the same time. And when I met Curtis, it was like Curtis, she would always say, oh, I'm so, I'm very anxious, I'm very, I don't think I'll be great and I'll be good. And now fast forward 2.5 years later, she has grown tremendously, but she did it at her own pace. She wasn't actually trying to take on everything. She knew what her niche was very, very, very early, which was awesome for her. And she reached out to appropriate people, and everything is aligned. You don't want to be scatterbrained. You don't play yourself in 20 million directions. As you saw Dr. Stretch's many experiences, like just the highlight of her experiences, they were all aligned. They were all, it made sense. All, each other. They were different, but they were like independent, and they all make sense. They wasn't pulling her in different directions to require different her capacity. And that's something else we have to also understand as well. Don't place limits on yourself. We want you to do as much as you can, but we want you to also understand, align it with your interests. That way you're not having to require too much mental energy to exhaust yourself. And if I say nothing else, it's just awareness of self, or your limits, or your capacity. I know that I can take on a lot more than the average person, but that's just something that I can take on. It's not for everyone. Have I faced the consequence of not being present all the time? Absolutely. And then that's what I'm learning now. And, you will get your chance to shine. Do not worry about, I like these 3 years in this program is all I have. No, this is just an opportunity when you have the opportunity to go for something. And you should largely just use the framework and the groundwork for you becoming an eventual counselor. Slow and steady wins the race. But if you're able to take an opportunity, go for it. And then you may not always be successful. You may get, I was denied multiple times for internships, for proposals, for the fellowship. I felt hindered, but I said, well, I would not have, if I did it outside of this, I would not have had another opportunity to apply. So it doesn't hurt to apply. It doesn't hurt to reach out. The worst that can happen is no. That means a better opportunity is on the way, and you'll learn it.
The one thing that I think I've had to learn, that is just something that a few of you on the call I think also can relate to, and that is, just because I can do something doesn't mean I should do something. And that's something that, like JJ said, I've had to be very intentional about what I'm putting on my plate. And sometimes I've been good at that, and sometimes I haven't. And I totally own that. That sometimes I've overwhelmed myself just because, that looks like such a great opportunity. And I've had to take a back step to that, And so I really believe in working smarter, not harder. Like, my role as the International Registry of Counselor Education Programs often supports my role as the department chair for the Chicago School, which is very dedicated to internationalization as well. So whenever possible, I'm aligning these two this work in both places so that it's helping with both programs, So you have to work smarter, not harder, and just really invest in your mentors. So I think we're almost at time, right? Hannah, did you want to post the link for the evaluation?
Yes, I just need to find it really quick.
Okay.
So thank
you all for being here, and you can go ahead, Ashley.
No, I was just going to ask if anyone wanted to share real quick. We have like 2 minutes. What their plan is to maybe become more involved, if anyone's really thought about what they want to do moving forward.
I know for me, I just started finding my footing with, especially in the, I am so sorry. In the Honor Society, I am the bylaws chair, but it's just been amazing how many opportunities I have had come up since then, and just really moving myself forward and not taking on too much at the same time, but knowing that that this is something I am interested in.
Thank you, Hannah. All right, guys. Well, we appreciate you guys coming to our presentation, and I think, did you say the link was going to be posted for the evaluation in the chat?
And it's in the program guide too.
Okay.
Yes, I'm just getting that now.
Okay, awesome.
And I think we have a few more sessions. And then the conference is over, and everybody's sad, and we'll have to wait for next year and do it again.
All right, the link is in there.
Thank you.
If you're volunteering to put together the fall conference, we can talk.
Thank you, everyone.
Thanks, guys. That was some great info.
Thank you. You're welcome. Bye.
Thanks. Bye, y'all.